We always win. He's our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like him. With him we win. He's our champion. With him we can lose. We always win. He's our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, we lift our hands. We lift our voice. We celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands. We lift our voice. We celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, we lift lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we live, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win. You're our champion. Oh, we lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win. You're our champion. Oh, we lift our hands, Hallelujah. For the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion, and you we can't lose. We always win, you're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there's none like you. With you we win, you're our champion, and you we can't lose. We always win, you're our champion. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. Oh, give thanks unto Yahuwah, for he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. For he is worthy, worthy. For he is great. Yes, he is great. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Testify. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Study the Torah. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Believe I'll do my dance while I have a chance. Believe I'll do my dance while I have a chance. Believe I'll do my dance while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Believe I'll do my dance while I have a chance. Believe I'll do my dance while I have a chance. Believe I'll do my dance while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Clap my hands. Believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. Believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. Believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Clap my hands. Believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. Believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. Believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this chance anymore. Clap my hands. Believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. Believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. Believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. 'Cause I may not have this 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 chance anymore. Testify. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. believe I'll run on while I have a chance, 'cause I may not have this chance anymore. Run on, believe I'll run on while I have a chance. Believe I'll run on while I have a chance. Believe I'll run on while I have a chance, 'cause I may not have this chance anymore. Run on, believe I'll run on while I have a chance. Believe I'll run on while I have a chance. Believe I'll run on while I have a chance, 'cause I may not have this chance anymore. Shout, shout, believe I'll shout, shout while I have a chance. Believe I'll shout, shout while I have a chance. Believe I'll shout, shout while I have a chance, 'cause I may not have this chance anymore. Shout, shout, believe I'll shout, shout while I have a chance. Believe I'll shout, shout while I have a chance. Believe I'll shout, shout while I have a chance, 'cause I may not have this chance anymore. Study the Torah. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance, 'cause I may not have this chance anymore. Study the Torah. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance. Believe I'll study the Torah while I have a chance, 'cause I may not have this 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 chance anymore. Testify, believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance, 'cause I may not have this chance anymore. Sing my song, believe I'll sing my song while I have a chance. Believe I'll sing my song while I have a chance. Believe I'll sing my song while I have a chance, 'cause I may not have this chance anymore. Sing my song, believe I'll sing my song while I have a chance. Believe I'll sing my song while I have a chance. Believe I'll sing my song while I have a chance, 'cause I may not have this chance anymore. Sing my song, believe I'll sing my song while I have a chance. Believe I'll sing my song while I have a chance. Believe I'll sing my song while I have a chance, 'cause I may not have this chance anymore. Clap my hands, believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. Believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance. Believe I'll clap my hands while I have a chance, 'cause I may not have this chance anymore. Run on, believe I'll run on while I have a chance. Believe I'll run on while I have a chance. Believe I'll run on while I have a chance, 'cause I may not have this chance anymore. I have a neighbor, believe I'll have my neighbor while I have a chance. Believe I'll have my neighbor while I have a chance. Believe I'll have my neighbor while I have a chance. not have this chance anymore. Believe I'll have my neighbor while I have a chance. Believe I'll have my neighbor while I have a chance. Believe I'll have my neighbor while I have a chance. May not have this chance anymore. Believe I'll do my dance while I have a chance. Believe I'll do my dance while I have a chance. Believe I'll do my dance while I have a chance. May not have this 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 chance anymore. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. May not have this chance anymore. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. May not have this chance anymore. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. Believe I'll testify while I have a chance. May not have this chance anymore. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me, I will Baruch your name. 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 Baruch you. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me, Baruch you. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me, I will Baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me, Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me, I will Baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me, Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me, I will Baruch your name. 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 You're the beginning and the end. We worship you, oh Yah. You are worthy to be praised. You're the beginning and the end. We worship you, oh Yah. You are worthy to be praised. You're the beginning. You're the beginning and the end. We worship you, oh Yah. You are worthy to be praised. You're the beginning. You're the beginning and the end. We worship you, oh Yah. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship you, oh Yah. You are worthy to be praised. You're the beginning. beginning. You're the beginning and the end. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. You're the beginning. You're the beginning and the end. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. You're the beginning. You're the beginning and the end. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. You're the beginning. You're the beginning and the end. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. You're the beginning. You're the beginning and the end. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You're the beginning. You're the beginning and the end. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. You're the beginning. You're the beginning and the end. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship you, oh yeah. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. Come on, praise Him. He's worthy, he's worthy, he's worthy, he's worthy, he's great people, as we stand before you this great day, our Yom Shabbat, a time to celebrate and a time to commemorate and a time to study and our time of rest. We rest from our labors and our chores, but we never rest from studying and reflecting upon His instructions for our lives. So we're going to begin this great rising with the Baruch of the Torah, and then we're going to go into the reading of the Ten Commandments. Repeat with me, Baruch Yahuwah,
Baruch Yahuwah,
the Baruch one.
the Baruch one.
Baruch is Yahuwah,
Baruch is Yahuwah,
the Baruch one.
the Baruch one.
For all eternity.
For all eternity.
Baruch atah,
Baruch atah,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
our supreme one.
our supreme one.
King of the universe.
King of the universe.
Who selected us from all the peoples.
Who selected us from all the peoples.
And gave us His Torah.
And gave us His Torah.
Baruch atah,
Baruch atah,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
giver of the Torah.
giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Baruch atah,
Baruch atah,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
our supreme one.
our supreme one.
King of the universe.
King of the universe.
Who gave us the Torah of truth.
Who gave us the Torah of truth.
And implanted eternal life within us.
And implanted eternal life within us.
Baruch atah,
Baruch atah,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
giver of the Torah.
giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Comes from the set apart scriptures. Aleph, I am Yahuwah, your power which brought you out of the land of Israel from the days of slavery. Bet, you shall have no other power before me. You shall not make you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in Shemayim above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the mind beneath the earth. You shall not bow down yourself unto them, nor serve them, for I, Yahuwah, your power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the hours upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Gimel, you shall not take the name of Yahuwah your power and falsify it, for Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that takes his name and empties it. Dalet, guard the Sabbath day to set it apart, as Yahuwah your power has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah your power. In it you shall not do any work. You, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your ox, nor your ass, nor any of your cattle, nor your foreigner that is within your gates, that your manservant and your maidservant may rest as well as you. And remember that you were a servant in the land of Mitzrayim, and that Yahuwah your power brought you out of there through a mighty hand and by a stretched out arm. Therefore Yahuwah your power commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Hey, esteem your Abba and your Ema as Yahuwah your power has commanded you, that your days may be prolonged and that it may go well with you in the land which Yahuwah your power has about to give you. Why you shall not murder? Zain, neither shall you commit adultery. Het, neither shall you steal. Tet, neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. Yud, neither shall you desire your neighbor's issue, neither shall you covet your neighbor's bed, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is your neighbor's. These words Yahuwah spoke unto all your assembly in the mount, out of the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness with a great voice. And he added no more. And he wrote them in 2 tables of stone and delivered them unto me. And it is so.
And it is so. And it is so. Yahusha the son of Nun, chapter 1, verse 7 and 8. And it reads, only be you strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the Torah which Moshe my servant commanded you. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. Verse 8, as I have tailored it to fit our time of confession. Repeat with me. I will not let this scroll of the Torah.
I will not let the scroll of the Torah
Depart from my mouth.
depart from my mouth.
But I shall meditate in it.
But I shall meditate in it
Day and night.
day and night,
That I may observe to do.
that I may observe to do
According to all that is written in it.
according to all that is written in it.
For then I shall make my way prosperous.
And then I shall make my way prosperous.
And act wisely.
And act wisely.
And act wisely.
And act wisely.
Now look at your neighbor, tell your neighbor, and you shall act wisely.
And you shall act wisely.
Look at your other neighbor, tell your other neighbor, and you shall act wisely. And you shall act wisely. Come on, look at your other neighbor, tell your other neighbor, and you shall act wisely. And you shall act wisely. Now take your hand and place it over your heart and say, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
I endeavor
I endeavor
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
I endeavor
I endeavor
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so very important that we endeavor to act wisely. Mishlei 15 and 8. The sacrifices of the wicked is an abomination, hateful and exceedingly offensive unto you, Abba Yahuwah, but the prayer of the upright, it is your delight. Mishlei 3 and 4. So shall we find great understanding and high esteem at the sight or judgment of Yahuwah and man. And it is so.
And it is so.
Excuse me. Tehillim 34 and 15. The eyes of Yahuwah are upon the upright, and his ears are open unto our cry. Verse 17. The upright cry, and Yahuwah heareth, and delivereth us out of all our troubles. Acts 1 and 8. But we shall receive power after that the Ruach HaKodesh shall come upon us, and we shall be witnesses unto him both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Samaria and unto the uttermost part of the earth. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. It doesn't matter where we are, we will be a witness to him as long as we have received the Ruach HaKodesh.
Yes.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Tehillim 1 and 1. Baruch is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the unrighteous, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the instructions of Abba Yah, and he doth meditate upon it. And it is so.
And it is so.
Ibram 11 and 6. But without belief it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to Yahuwah must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. It takes belief to be odd, obedient, diligent, disciplined. And it is so.
And it is so.
Ayah 33 and 4. The Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah hath made me, and the breath of the Almighty hath given me life. Micah 4 and 8. But truly I am full of power by the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah, and of judgment and of might, to declare unto Yaakov his transgression, and to Yah'srael his sin. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Let us have another song, please.
If it had not been for Yah on my side, tell me where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for Yah on my side? Tell me where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for Yah on my side? me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for you on my side? Tell me, where would I I be? Where would I be? Come on, praise Him, praise Him, praise Him, hallelujah, hallelujah. Where would I be if it had not been for Yahweh being on my side? Hallelujah, hallelujah. He's worthy of our praise. He's worthy of our esteem. He's worthy of our adoration. He's worthy. He's worthy. He's worthy. He's worthy. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Yes, he is. He's worthy. He's worthy. Every time we get an opportunity to come together to share in the great things that he's done and continues to do in our lives, excuse me, as a body, as a ministry, as a family, or as the family of power, it is very important that we celebrate him. Because remember, one time we were in darkness, one time we were without this truth. And so we were going about our daily chores, what we thought was normal, or what was the norm, which was actually for us not the norm, but a way of disobedience. But now that we're walking in truth, it behooves us to give him praise and give him esteem. Very important that we understand that, because every time revelation is brought to you, that's the time that you ought to esteem him and give him praise.
That's right.
We ought to never get to the point that it becomes monotonous or that it becomes just out of habit.
Right.
That's right.
We don't come to Sabbath class just out of habit. We do it because it is a part of our obligation and responsibility. Yes, it's a time of rest, but he said from our labor. He didn't say from us studying and learning,
That's right.
just from our labor. So every time we come together, it is important that we celebrate him in this our coming together. Because the more we celebrate him, the more we have access to him. And the more access we have, the more revelation will flow unto us as people.
Right.
So we do give him esteem for all that he's doing, all that he's done, and all that he's yet going to do. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 1 through 18. These are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which Yahuwah your power commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land where you are going to enter and possess it. Verse 1 is my favorite part of this whole chapter. Why? Because once again, this is not our home. So we're making preparations for where we're going.
That's right.
We're making preparations for where we're going. All we're doing is preparing ourselves and setting the atmosphere on the inside of where we're going and what we will continue to do when we get home. And it is so.
And it is so.
That you might fear Yahuwah your power to keep all his statutes, his commandments, which I command you, you and your son and your grandson, all the days of your life, and that your days may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Yah'srael, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily as Yahuwah power of your Abbas has promised you in the land that flows with milk and honey. Excuse me. Hear, O Yah'srael, Yahuwah our supreme one. Yahuwah is Akkad. Shema Yah'srael, Yahuwah is our Savior. Yahuwah is Akkad. And you shall have Yahuwah your supreme one with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, to fall, to bind to the mind, give access to roam, and to be free in the mind. And you shall write them upon the posts of your bed, and on your gates. And it shall be when Yahuwah your power shall have brought you into the land which he swore to your Abbas, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Yaakov, to give you great cities which you did not build, houses full of all great things which you filled not, and wells dug which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant. When you shall have eaten and be full, then beware lest you forget. Lest we forget. Yahuwah, which brought us forth out of the land of Mitzrayim from the bed of slavery. Always make it personal. The more personal we make it, the more we will find ourselves being connected and attached to it, and not just talking about our ancestors and forefathers, but also talking about our own lives. Because we too were trapped in Mitzrayim, a world of sin, a lifestyle that was truly contrary to the life that we were supposed to be walking in. And so now as we're walking in this, and in truth, it is a reminder to us not to forget him.
That's right.
Not to forget him as we truly begin to prosper. You shall fear Yahuwah your power and serve him and shall swear by his name. You shall not go after the power of the people which are round about you. Very important that we not follow in the ways of the world. For Yahuwah your power is a jealous power among you, lest the anger of Yahuwah your power be kindled against you, and he destroy you from off the face of the earth. You shall not tempt Yahuwah your power as you tempted him in Massah. You shall diligently keep the commandments of Yahuwah your power and his testimonies and his statutes which he has commanded you. And you shall do that which is great in the sight of Yahuwah, that it may be well with you, and that you may go in and possess the great land which Yahuwah swore unto your fathers. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Yehukin and Aleph 5, 4, and 5. For whatsoever is born of Yahuwah overcometh the world, and this is the victory that overcometh the world. Even our belief, who is he that overcometh the world, but he that believeth that Yahusha is the son of Yahuwah. Very important for us to remember that. So many things that can be brought out in that verse. Once again, very important that we understand that Yahusha is the son of Yahuwah.
That's right.
He is the son of Yahuwah.
That's right.
And I've had many people that will challenge this and say, well, he is not. And not only that, it's important that we understand that Yahusha is the son of Yahuwah. And they are one. But Yahusha is not Yahuwah.
That's right.
So y'all following me?
Yes. Right.
They are two different powers. Two different people, if we want to say. But they are one. And have their separate identities. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand this. Many people continue to fight over this very thing. It is a question. He is his son. Now, once again, the reason why it has to be understood is because, once again, Yahusha came in the stead. Are you following me?
Yes.
Of Yahuwah. He came to redeem us. So, once again, very important for us to understand that they are one. And that Yahusha is Yahusha and Yahuwah is Yahuwah. But he is his son, and yet they are one.
That's right.
Not the same person.
That's right.
Very important for us to understand that. Because many of people argue about that to this day. Once again, very important that we understand that. Because Yahuwah did not die.
That's right.
He can't.
That's right.
He cannot. So once again, very important for us to understand that. At one time I believed that, but he cannot die. Can you imagine truly, and we're going to continue to read, if Yahuwah died, then who was in his stead while he was dead? Who was taking care of and making sure everything was done? And if he was Yahusha, then who did he present himself to if he was Yahuwah?
Right.
Great question, isn't it?
Yes.
Because if Yahusha was Yahuwah, then who did he present himself to? Yahusha presented himself to Yahuwah. Because if he presented himself to anybody else, then that means there would be somebody over who? Yahuwah. And we know that's a lie.
That's right. Yes, sir.
That's a lie. Once again, they're one, but they are not one in the same. They are one because they are united and they have the same purpose and the same desire. But they are separate, but one. You're following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. Very important to understand that. That's why it's important that we believe that he's the son of Yahuwah and not the son of himself. You follow me?
Yes.
All right. Yehukin and Aleph, chapter 2, 5, and 6. But whoever keeps his Torah, truly the Ahab of Yahuwah is perfected in him. By this we know that we are in him. He who says he abides in him ought himself also to walk just as he walked. Verse 17, and the world passes away and the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of Yahuwah abideth forever. Somebody say abideth forever.
Abideth forever.
Say it again, abideth forever.
Abideth forever.
Yehukin and Moshe 11:24, which is Mark. Therefore I say unto you, what things soever you desire when you pray, believe that you receive them and you shall have them. And it is so. I'm a believer. How about you?
Yes.
I am a believer. And I believe I have just what I say according to his instructions. As we've come to this portion of our time, we want to do our Sabbath declaration for our Sabbath rest and also for the unity of our people. We want to voice print the atmosphere saturated with our requests and also with our confessions of belief and believing that our people are going to come together, because we are going to come together. And we want to come together, and even here in this place, we want to be able to be a cop. We want to show the world that we are his children by the way we govern ourselves and by the way we govern ourselves towards one another. And it is so.
It is so.
All right, repeat with me. Abba Yah,
Abba Yah,
in the name of Yahusha,
in the name of Yahushua,
our Mashiach,
our Mashiach,
we subdue ignorance
we subdue ignorance
with Torah knowledge.
with Torah knowledge.
And through this knowledge
And through this knowledge
of Torah truth,
of Torah truth,
we claim healing,
we claim healing,
shalom,
shalom,
deliverance,
deliverance,
and salvation.
and salvation.
We decree
We decree
Torah truth
Torah truth
in the lives
in the lives
of your people,
of your people,
our people, Yah'srael.
Yah'srael.
We unite
We unite
not to fight
not to fight
each other,
each other,
each other,
each other,
but the enemy
but the enemy
of our belief.
of our belief.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. I declare a time of rest, shalom, and truth in Yahuwah. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. All right. Let us bow before our King as we prepare to seal this portion of our praise, worship, and our confession. Repeat with me. May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. We have just recited Tehillim 19 and 15, and it is so. You may be seated in His presence as we prepare to get into class on this great day. I pray everyone rested well, and that the sweetness of Abba Yahuwah enveloped you in your time of rest, and as He continues to cause us to rest. One of the things that I'm learning is truly when the writings tell us, if we keep our mind stayed on Him, He will keep us in perfect shalom. He will keep us in shalom. So many things going on and so many things taking place in the world. We want to make sure that we're staying focused. And we're staying applicable to His instructions for our lives. Very important for that. Yesterday when we were out, and we're going to be turning our attention to the book of Wayikra. We're in chapter 10 tonight. Today, chapter 10. We're in chapter 10, verse 8. But as we were out yesterday just doing some errands, and as we always do when we go out and take care of things, we take that time to go on our date. So we have our lunch date. And as we were out, and we were at the Dollar Tree. And I'm saying this so that we as a people will be wise. Male and female. I noticed, and it's not something that's new, we've seen it, but now it is really becoming one of the things that really caught my attention because I saw it twice yesterday. And some may say, well, 2 times, that's not that much. It is a lot when you see a single mother who has a son, but he looks like a little girl. Looks just like when I tell you he was pretty. Now, I know there are some men that are gorgeous and nice. That are nice looking, but this little boy, we thought he was a little girl. And I saw this, and then the same day we were at Walmart, and I was in the restroom, and there was a single mother who had a little boy who was in there. They're taking on the persona of their mothers. To not before they start acting like or acting feminine, they start looking like it first. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And when I saw it, it grieved my heart. And the reason it grieved my heart is because here it is, we have yet a society of young people that continually fall into the trap. you know, and they get in relationships. And I know we going into the writings, but I want to say this because I want us to continue to pray and truly pray for these single mothers, and pray that wisdom would prevent more single mothers from popping up. And because now the young men, the baby boys, are taking on the persona and the attributes of the mother. And these are not great qualities. Are you following me? For us, it's great because we are women. But for a little boy, 3 or 4 or 5, maybe up to 6 years of age, beginning to look feminine means that this is now how he is being shaped. Be it known unto the mother that she is doing this or not. But once again, it's important for us as a people not to forget those that are not in truth. And specifically tailor an area of prayer for these young mothers. Right. Because some of them have to do because they have no man in their lives. Are you following me?
Yes.
Some of them have papas. Some of them don't have, I mean grandpapas. Some of them don't have them to help shape their lives. So they fall into the hands of their ima. And trust me, I'm not speaking bad about them, but what I am saying is true. You can't be both. You can only be one.
That's right.
We can only be who he created us, Yahuwah created us to be. And that's feminine. Because we are women. And a man can only be what Yahuwah has created him to be. He cannot be both. He can nurture, but he can only nurture from his perspective as a man. And a woman, vice versa. But now when it comes to the point that you have to take them into the woman's bathroom, now they're being shaped to believe that this is the place they're supposed to be. Because they don't tell them any different. Now everybody don't do that. Now you got some of the mothers that like behind in there and go in these restrooms, and I'll be right here. And they go in there like a little champ. They ain't worried about nobody. Probably cuss you out if you come at them the wrong way. But then there are those who don't really know how to do that. And I can understand not wanting them to go into a bathroom where there's only men and you don't know if anybody's in there. You don't. Because now you have to stand there and make the decision, do I let my little boy go in there and take the chance that somebody else is in there? Or do I take him in the bathroom where all these ladies are? And he's surrounded by women. Are you following me?
Yes.
And he becomes comfortable with it. Are you following me?
Yes.
This is something that is truly, it has been going on, but now it is at an all-time high. They're younger now. And I looked at him and I was like, what he is so, I was like, well, she's so cute. She's about, come on here, boy. And I was like, and we looked at each other and we were saying it at the same time. I thought that was a little girl. Because he is taking on the persona and the attributes of his Eva. We need to pray. We need to truly continue to pray. Now watch this. And my issue is that when some of these brothers get in the truth, they forget they created a family before they got in the truth. So now, sometimes these sisters are left hanging because they in truth. Well, you know, that was my life out there, and, you know, I can't do that. Bump your life. Are you following me? You still have a son that needs to be shaped.
That's right. That's right.
And you are still responsible for shaping him or helping shape him. And when that is not done, now we have a society that's grooming little boys to become feminine. And now, if they're not careful, to open themselves up to homosexuality.
Sure.
It's the truth. It is the truth. Same thing with little girls. We were going home to the property, and there was this European man, and he had 2 little girls, and he went in the male's bathroom, and I almost passed out. Y'all have to understand, as an Ema, regardless, you could be green. When it comes to stuff like that, I can't separate that. And so here it is. I don't care. You can hate my guts. Are you following me? Now, if they had Ku Klux Klansmen outfits on and the hair wrap, then you can go and knock yourself out. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
But here it is. He was trying to make a decision. So we opened up the door, and I said, let them come on in. And they went into the restroom, and he said, thank you so much. Then, some European ladies came in, and they took it over, and I was like, fine. I mean, I wasn't going to touch them. I just let them go in the bathroom. I'm like, my whole thing, you got to understand, I do have, are you following me, integrity. I do have a sense of integrity to know, okay, look, you taking them, and then mind you now, my sons are in that bathroom. That was another one of my reasons and issues, because my sons was in there, and I don't want them gawking at my sons.
Exactly.
No, because you got to understand that thing works both ways.
Exactly.
So I was like, no, let them come in here. They'll be all right. And so they went in and they did it. But this is a time that we really have to be mindful and target our prayers. Target our prayers, because once again, there are a lot of single mothers out there that are struggling, and I'm not talking about financially, but struggling to maintain how to raise a boy, a baby boy, a son, and have no influence of a male. You can tell. All you got to do is look at how he's acting. When there is the absence of a male, you will see the absence of masculinity. You will see the absence of it. Because who's going to do it? So once again, we have to pray, and pray for wisdom, that our young sisters and even older ones will catch a clue. If you don't come and you don't marry me, then you don't get anything from me. You can buy me $1 million meal. You can't buy this. Are you following me?
That's right.
It's about valuing ourselves to the point that if you ain't willing to give me your last name, keep it moving, bro. Keep it moving. Because this is where we have to be, because once again, we have our sons, and then you have to understand, we are targeted for destruction. We are targeted. So let's thwart that through prayer and being able to minister and reach our young sisters and even our young brothers. If you're not going to marry them and you're not going to be with them long term, me personally, don't go to bed until you wed, because that's where it's supposed to be.
That's right.
And therefore, when it's all said and done, if you have $1 billion of them, guess what? You understand your responsibility and you marry that individual.
That's right. That's right.
Very important for us to understand. But I wanted to bring that out so that we will use wisdom. Are you following me? And
Yes.
if you have young nieces and young cousins, they can be a little whippersnapper, but tell them, say, look, unless you want to be a single mother, I advise you to use wisdom. Because you got some of those brothers out there that are very cunning. They're just like the serpent. Are you understanding me? The serpent was able to con Eve, but you have to understand, she gave him time and she listened, and boom, he did what he had to do, and then she turned around and gave it to her husband. That are able to put young ladies and vice versa in predicaments that when it's all said and done, and it don't take but one time, and you come up with a child. Life is never an accident.
That's right.
But when you are not prepared for it, it will seem like an accident or a tragedy. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
One of the two. So I just wanted to kind of drop that in our ruach on today so that we will continue to pray. And if we have not prayed, we will start praying for this so that we can continue to build our people and not see the destruction of our people, because the enemy is shrewd, and it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. All right. On today, we're looking at Shemini. Means 8. And on last night in our pre-Sabbath class, we discovered a lot of things, great things concerning this time. The sacrifices, seeing how Yahuwah did what he did. When I tell you, it blew my mind when it, me personally, I've read this numerous times and really never got the understanding of it, but we read sometimes so much, and we read it, over a period of time that we read and we read and we read, and sometimes the understanding is not there. And so we would tend to read it and say, okay, they were just sacrificing. No, you have to understand, every time they sacrificed, there was a name or a people attached to it. It was never just something done, well, we're going to be practicing. No, it was never for practice sake.
That's right.
Excuse me. It was always because somebody needed to offer and needed to have their offering presented. And so on last night, as we learned, Haran and his sons were called to the office of the priesthood. And as they operated in the priesthood, the sons were learning, and they were not just standing by. Neither were they doing their own project. But this was a team effort, and everything that Haran did, they were right there assisting him. Assisting him, not going off doing their own thing, but assisting him to ensure that everything was done right. Well, we found out that as they continued to do, and they saw the power of Yahuwah come forth, and they saw how Yahuwah worked, they felt like they had a right to go in and offer strange fire. And this is what caused them to die. And the way they died, according to the historians, is that the power of Yahuwah went through their nostrils and destroyed their soul. Their bodies were still intact, and their garments were still intact. That's why they took them off, and they had to wash them and give them to the next set of priests. Tell me that is not phenomenal and scary at the same time. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. He does not have to destroy your body to kill you.
That's right.
Now you have to understand. And they took their bodies outside and took the clothing off of them and washed the clothing and took them outside the camp. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
And it was at that time that nobody could mourn for them because of what they had done. Not only did Yahuwah take up the offering, but he also took their lives because of their foolishness. We can never ever be reckless in this walk because your recklessness can cost you your life. That is why we are to pray before we do anything. And beyond that, before you even go talking about praying, you better make sure it is merited. Prayer is merited for that situation.
Right.
If you've been given instructions on something to do, you don't have to go pray about that. Just do it or not do it.
That's right.
That's one of the most important things for us as a people, because we get this in our mind that because now we're walking in truth or the way we've come in the truth, that now we don't have to listen to nobody. I ain't getting no feedback. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's important that we understand. What I am saying is that just because Yahuwah brings us in a certain way does not mean that that's going to be the way that we're going to follow this path all the way out.
Right.
So we think, well, he opened my eyes up because I was reading. Okay, that's going to happen when you are seeking for him.
That's right.
He says, seek me and I shall be found. Call on me while I'm near. Now, once again, it's very important that we understand that. But then when you come near, there are still more instructions to be followed.
That's right.
And they failed to do that. Trying to quickly move ahead. Because you have to understand, Haran was the one who was giving them the instructions. It was not for them to go outside of that and do their own thing. And doing so, it cost them their lives. And before that, Haran had to offer up his own sin offering. And they were not to eat that, but it was to be burnt up. That was not to be eaten, but it was to be burnt. Are you following me?
Yes.
Even to the point that where after Moshe had to encourage him to go and offer because he had become afraid. He didn't want to go because he felt like what he had done, in which it was a major thing. Because you have to remember, he abetted them in making the golden calf. He's the one that sculptured it. He's the one that did it.
Right.
So once again, he felt like, he didn't have to, or he was afraid to go to the north side of the altar and offer up. And Yahuwah, with his sweet self, told Moshe to encourage him to do what he was put in position to do. And that was to offer up. But first, he had to offer up for himself. This is one of the things that's so important for us. We first have to be forgiven before we can go and tell somebody else they need to be forgiven. This is why we ought to always walk in a place of repentance, and that we ought to always evaluate and do a reality check of our lives on a day-to-day basis.
That's right.
It's like we always checking, if you drive, you're always checking whether you got the dots or whether you still have the little hand that tells you how much gas in it. You don't just drive 6 days a week and then turn around and be like, I wonder, do I have some gas? You'll find out at the end when you are stuck on the side of the road. You check your daily when you get in there. Let me turn this thing on. Let me see how much gas I have in here. Why? Because you want to make sure that when you start on your journey, you don't have to turn around and stop. Or be forced to stop because you have no other choice because you have no gas in your car. Very important for us to understand this. So it is imperative and important that we do a reality check daily. Check our motives. Why do we do what we do? Are we studying because we want to truly be closer to him? Or are we studying because whenever that time comes up, I'm going to be able to bap them in the face with this knowledge? I don't study for debate purposes.
That's right.
I study because I want to be closer to him.
Yes.
Are you following me?
Yes.
That's why we study. See, because I've learned something about Yahuwah. Really, one day, some of them folk that's calling themselves really the true believers of Yahuwah going to get up there, open their mouths, and they're going to forget everything they studied. Because you have to understand, it is his instructions to us, not a bat, not a battle axe to fight people with. That is not why we study. That is not why he gave it to us.
Right.
He gave us his instructions to set us apart from everybody else, not to be used to fight people with it.
That's right.
It is used for correction, but not as a battering ram.
Yes, that's right.
It's very important that we understand that. Never misuse what is a gift unto us. You don't take a shoe and hammer a nail in. You don't use that because that's not what a shoe is for, even though it can do it. That is not what it's for. We get a hammer and we hammer the nail in with the hammer, not with the heel of the shoe. Likewise, we don't use the Torah for debating. We need to learn how to state it and not debate it. Well, what? I've stated it. I'm not going to debate it. Now go pray about it. Go study it. But I'm not going to waste his precious, valuable Torah on trying to convince you of something. Every time I say, you're going to come right back with something to rebuttal it. That makes no sense. Are you following me?
Yes.
It reminds me of Star Wars, when they have the lightsabers. You know, when they hit, they go bzzz, and it makes that banging sound. That's what happens when we're taking the Torah and we're using it to try to debate one another. All it's doing is doing this. Boom, boom, boom. It's just hitting. Because the Torah is not going to defeat itself.
Right.
It can't. So we are just wielding it in a immature way because we're trying to get a point across. If once you've stated it, that point is not made clear, then guess what? Maybe it ain't supposed to be made clear. Because I've come to realize everybody doesn't want truth. But for those that want it, will sit there and you have to understand there's a difference between questioning and debating.
That's right.
Debating means every time you tell me something, I'm gonna come up with something else. Are you following me?
Yes.
To try to thwart or try to annul what you are saying. If I ask a question and say, but I heard this and I saw this, so what's the difference? That's questioning because you want to make sure, because I know I'm going to question it. If it's something I've never heard before and it is something I'm really not sure in my heart about, I'm going to question it. And then I'm going to say, okay, well, this is how I learned it and this is what I was taught. Because I want you to understand why I believe what I believe. I'm not going to sit up there and fight you because I'm not going to debate over his Torah.
That's right.
Because that's immature.
Yes.
Very immature.
That's right.
It is. Because you have to understand, you don't take diamonds and throw them at people.
That's right.
You don't. You don't take pearls and throw them at people. Because you be like, no, that's precious to me. If you ain't ready for that, I'm not going to deliver it to you. Because you're not going to do right with it anyway.
Right.
Are you following me?
Yes.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that, and we should never do that either. If you don't want it, fine, then I'll keep my mouth closed. But I don't debate. That's why a lot of times people will deal, and when I say I'm not going to debate, they'll keep it moving. And that's just the way I like it, because I'm not going to debate over his word.
That's right.
And it is so.
It is so.
It is so. All right, chapter 10, and we're going to start at verse 8. 20. Let's start at verse 8. And I mean, they couldn't leave. Everything had to be followed in a manner. Everything, instructions had to be followed in detail. They had to be consecrated, and in their consecration, they couldn't move. They had to remain in that place that was consecrated for them to be consecrated. It is very important that we understand detail. I try to be a very detailed person. Why? Because I don't want to miss anything. I listen.
Right.
And especially when it's something I'm being given to me, I'm like, okay, now you say what? All right, tell me that again. Write that down for me. Tell me how to do that. Why? Because when you really want something and you want to make sure you're getting it, you have to be detailed.
Right.
Are you following me? It's very important because you don't want to miss anything. Because what we may look over may be the very thing that is so important to us and connects us to everything else. So we never ever look over anything. And it is so. All right, come on. Let's read 6 verses.
And Yahuwah spoke unto Aharon, saying, Do not drink wine nor strong drink, you nor your sons with you, when you go into the tabernacle of the congregation, lest you die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations. And that you may distinguish between set apart and not set apart, and between clean and unclean. And that you may teach the children of Yah'srael all the statutes which Yahuwah has spoken unto them by the hand of Moshiach. And Moshiach spoke unto Aharon and to Eleazar and to Ithamar, his sons that were left. Take the grain offering that remained of the offerings of Yahuwah, made by fire, and eat it without the leaven, beside the altar, for it is most set apart. And you shall eat it in the set apart place, because it is your due, and your sons' due, of the sacrifices of Yahuwah made by fire. For so I am commanded, and it is so.
And it is so. Now, and Yahuwah spoke unto Haran. For Haran was a prophet. And no priest could perform any duties while in a state of being inebriated, lest the fate of Nadab and Abihu befall him. Once again, he's speaking to Haran, and he's telling him, you can't go in there drunk. Are you following me?
Yes.
This is why we are not to drink before we go in to minister.
That's right.
Not supposed to drink, because you're not supposed to become intoxicated, which we know people that did do that in Christianity. They would get tipsy and then say that's when they preached the best, when they were a little drunk. Yes, they would. So that's not what we're supposed to do. Drink no wine or strong drink. That is, do not drink wine or strong drink. Now, because it's intoxicating. And watch this. Because it destroys one's mental faculties and causes confusion of speech. Your speech becomes slurred. Your response becomes slowed down. Really, you are not able to truly do anything. This is how a lot of times people are taken advantage of, because they get what? Drunk. So once again, and when you are intoxicated and inebriated, really, you cannot think straight. It's almost like you have two minds. I can say, because I've been inebriated before. And so when you are, it's almost like you have two minds. Your mind of reason is thrust in the back, and your mind of foolishness or thought of foolishness is in the forefront. And you start thinking, I can fly. Even though in the back of your mind thinking, I can't fly. That's stupid. But that alcohol makes you stupid. I'm serious. It makes you really dumb. Because you do things that you wouldn't normally do. Because you got the, how they say the spirits? When you go to the store and you buy spirits. You're buying the spirits. Once again, it's important that we understand this is why, because being inebriated slows your response. You're unable to think rationally. And they couldn't be in there trying to serve and butcher, I don't want to use the word butcher, but sacrifice animals and deal with fire, and you are inebriated.
Right. Yes.
They'd have burned it up. You know how many times they'd have had to fix that? Because people going in there falling over stuff, and then not only that, you knocking over blood. You are contaminating the whole set because you are not able to function. Now, you have some people that say, because, when I get a little, get a little touch, I'm in control. You lie. You lied. That means you ain't really drunk. See, because when you're drunk, there's some things you just do not remember the next day. That's why it's important. That's why, once again, this is why a lot of times with men and women, this is how date rape came about. Because they would get them so intoxicated, they wouldn't know what was going on. Men have been taken advantage of just as well as women. Because they get them to the point where they cannot, response is slow, and then you don't know really what's going on. Because you're just that tore up. So once again, very important that we understand from that. We're not supposed to come in when we're getting ready. Does that mean we cannot drink wine? Absolutely not. You can. But if you're getting ready to come in, watch this, and minister. You cannot minister. You cannot drink before you come in to minister.
Sure.
That's a no-no. So they could not serve while they were drunk.
Sure.
And when you go into the tent of meeting, the approach to the altar required the same Kadesh preparedness as entry into the tent. Death was merited by entering the tent or approaching the altar in an intoxicated state, but only when service was to be performed. That means you didn't come in and perform service and you were drunk, because you would die right then and there. And I believe that's the same thing today. Yes. That if you go in and do some foolishness like that, you come in and thinking you're going to come in and serve, and you are inebriated, I believe you will die. I do. I believe that, because Yahuwah is not playing. I believe that with all my heart. Now, he said that you may put difference. The priest had to be able to distinguish between a valid sacrificial act and one which was not. Hence, he performed a sacred or duty while intoxicated. The rite was invalid. A drunkard may not give decisions. You can't give no decisions and you drunk. You can't even think for yourself when you're drunk. This is why so many crashes happen too. Drunk drivers. And have you noticed in each situation, it is very rare that the drunk driver dies.
Yeah.
They always end up killing somebody else. Because watch, they are unable to control. They flying, and if they're not driving too fast, then they're being reckless and careless. But it's very rare that you see a drunk driver die. Because most of the time when they're driving, they're not even driving. They're just behind the wheel and pressing the gas. And those that are not, get in an accident sometimes are not prepared because they're not looking for anything like that. One thing I've learned as a driver, you have to drive for you and everybody else. That was one of the things that my instructor taught me, which is my ish. He said, when you get on this road, he said, you have to drive for you and everybody else. Because for a while, I didn't want to drive because I was like, how am I going to maintain, driving? And how do you make sure you ain't driving too fast? It was funny. How to drive, how to maintain where you don't crash into nobody, how do you stop and you ain't all up on a person's bumper. So I had to learn, and one thing when you're driving, you have to keep your head on a swivel. When you're driving, you have to be, you have to really be looking all over the place. Because people will drive crazy. Yes, they will. They will pull out in the lane and not consider you. They will pull up behind you and basically be trying to make you drive faster. They will stop in front of you because they're on the phone, even though there is a law passed that you're not supposed to be texting. We still be driving my people and they be sitting doing just like this driving. I'm like, you ain't even looking at the road. No matter how much you have the phone up like this, you still cannot see the road. Are you following me?
Yes.
That's why when I'm driving, I don't text. It takes me maybe a few minutes and then I'll be like, okay, y'all know why I didn't text? Because I'm driving. I'm not going to crash. Are you following me?
Yes.
We had a young lady here whose daddy was killed in a car wreck, and he died horribly, y'all. He was on fire. He got thrown under the car, and he was on fire, and he was still alive. And they were texting and driving. and they hit him. And that meant they were speeding. He got thrown out of the window, thrown under another car, and it was on fire. And he was under there alive. Y'all, so you can't do that. Are you following me?
Yes.
It's important that we use wisdom when we're behind that wheel. Ain't nothing that important, you know, where you have to text while you're driving. Are y'all following me?
Yes,
Get to a stoplight, pull over on next to the curb, do something, but don't be texting and driving. And I ride up by people, and when they be texting and driving, I be looking at them just like this. Because if you hit me, I'm going to drag you out that car. And it's going to be an incident, but it's going to be me beating you because you were fool enough to be texting while you're driving. You don't value life. Are y'all following me? Once again, very important for us to understand these things. Very, very important for us to understand. Don't text and drive, y'all. Because it may be, if it's not your life, it might be the life of somebody else. And you don't want to take somebody's life. Not like that.
That's right.
Are y'all following me?
Yes.
All right. Now, once again, it's important that we understand you don't want to be drunk, especially in operating in the house or the tabernacle of Yahuwah, and you are inebriated because you can't make any choices or decisions for yourself, let alone for somebody else. And they had to be able to distinguish between what was right and what was wrong. Excuse me, between the unclean and the clean. Accordingly, this chapter is followed by chapters dealing with the laws of food and individual and family purity. Now, once again, that ye may teach the other laws, since the priest was to be the teacher, and since an intoxicated person may not act in this capacity, although unlike the priest not liable to a death penalty, if he did, the priest must avoid excess. In other words, you don't get yourself into that. Are you following me?
Yes.
You don't drink and then try to be instructing and ministering to somebody, because it's a whole lot of stuff from A to Z that can take place between that time.
Yes.
And it is so.
It is so.
And it is so. All right, once again, his sons that were left from death, teaching that they had barely escaped death on account of their association with the golden calf. Once again, you have to understand, everybody that made it through and didn't die, that participated in that situation, this was the time now that you see what the offerings were made for them because of that situation. Now, once again, they didn't get a card that said get out of jail free. They still had to offer up, and they still had to make provision for what they had done, and that was a sacrifice. That was a sin offering for the priests as well as the people. So they didn't get out of this and just go on with their lives and act like nothing happened. You have to understand why, because people were still watching, and above all, they would not be accepted or acceptable unto Yahuwah with that sin in their lives. As long as we have sin in our lives, we will be unacceptable. What is sin? Transgression of Yahuwah's instructions.
That's right.
That's why every day we need to make sure make sure I ain't did this wrong, make sure I ain't did that, make sure I'm not, even to eating, y'all, let me tell y'all something. When you're eating, even if you say, like we like to eat steak. I do. I know a lot of people don't like to. I do, and I have my steak cooked here. And so, even when you're doing that, you have to be careful, because you want to make sure when you're eating that you don't get no fat in your mouth.
Right.
Now, this might seem crazy and to some gross, but you have to understand, when you buy certain steak, you don't want it to be dry or whatever. And like I said, you want to make sure it has no fat in it. But there are times when you buy a steak and you cook it, and there's like maybe a tiny bit of gristle in it or a little bit of fat on the side. From you cooking it, you got to spit that out of your mouth, not chew it up and swallow it.
That's right.
May sound gross and may seem to some, but how did it get in there? When you're cooking steak, and sometimes you get it, once again, it has a little marbling in it, and you can tell. You have to turn right around and go, blah, spit it out. Because you want to make sure that you are not breaking any law, even with eating. You follow me?
Yes. Yes.
Very important we understand that. Very important we understand that. Anything. We want to make sure that we're doing everything according to his instructions. This is what makes us set apart and different. Because we are following his commands. We want to make sure we are adhering to the Sabbath. We don't buy anything. We don't sell anything. We don't work on this day. It is a day of rest. And let me tell you something. If you're not careful, you will accidentally do things not intentionally. We don't serve on this day. Are you following me?
Yes.
And that's one of the things we try to make sure we don't have to happen, because we are people that like to serve. But this is a day that everybody's supposed to rest. Are you following me?
Yes.
So you got to be conscious of that. So that when you're in there, you're not serving. Because you want to make sure that this is a day of what? Rest. It's a day of rest. So once again, very important for us to make sure that we are following it letter upon letter. Are you following me?
Yes.
Important that we understand that. Very important that we understand that. Very detailed about what we do.
Yes.
Because this is the command and the instructions he's given unto us as his people, to make sure we're not doing anything that is outside of his instructions. Now, take the meal offering. After it had been offered to Yahuwah, the priests could eat their share, although they were in mourning, which was normally not permitted. This sacrifice was prescribed for the 8th day of the consecration ceremony. Remember, this is Shemini, which means 8th. So for 7 whole days, they had to prepare. They had to put up the tabernacle, take it down, put it up, take it down. But on the 8th day, which is the new beginnings, they began a new thing. Now it is for them to go over into the consecration of the priests. Once again, they had to sleep in the tabernacle and the opening of the tent, because this is where they were going to be. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. You have to live this life. You have to live it, and it has to live in you. It's not something we just come in and do on the Sabbath and on the days we have class. We do this on a day-to-day basis. This is our lifestyle.
Yes.
It's not a religion. It's a lifestyle. A lifestyle unto us. So it's very important that we understand how we're to govern our lives. Eat it without leaven. This regulation had been stated in verse 9. But since this sacrifice was a communal meal offering, not commanded for future generations, it might have been assumed that the laws generally applicable to the meal offerings did not apply here. Therefore, it was deemed necessary to set forth expressly, in respect of this special offering, the law laid down for the other meal offering. So once again, they were able to partake of it. And we learned even last night that when they offered the grain offering, that was a free will offering. That was their free will offering. So every time something was done, they made sure that was the added to it. So it wouldn't be like, I'm going to give what is due and I ain't going to add nothing else. That was added so that they could give extra. Are you following me? You give him that extra praise. You give him that extra offering because you want him to know I'm sincere about what I'm doing.
Yes.
That's important for us to understand. We go that extra mile for him because we truly are Habit. So you want to push that extra mile and go forward. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, very important. He said, and thy sons do, but not the daughters, because they had no portion in these things at that time. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Because there were none there at that time. So, once again, very important for us to understand why they were eating it, because they were the ones in, and they were the ones serving at that time. Are y'all following?
Yes.
All right, at that time. For so I am commanded that even when they are mourning or mourners, they could eat it. So once again, they were supposed to eat it. And the breasts of waving of the communal peace or shalom offerings in a clean place, even outside the court, but where the sin offering and meal offering eaten in an unclean place, that the Torah stresses that this offering had to be eaten in a clean place. The reason is that whereas the preceding sacrifice had to be eaten in the court of the tabernacle, these could be eaten at the camp of Yah'srael, but not beyond it. In other words, it couldn't be eaten where the sin offering was given. It had to be eaten in that place, and it could even be eaten in the camp, but it couldn't go beyond the camp. They had to maintain where they were eating. Are you following? Just like if, like we would say, you can eat in the dining room, but don't take it in your bedroom. You follow me? So there was still parameters set where you just didn't go all over the place. And, well, I'm going to go outside. I want to eat it outside here. No, you're going to eat it here in this designated place. As long as it's in this area, you're great. But if you go outside of that, now you're in trouble. Are you understanding?
Yes.
All right. Now, let us read. Let's read.
Verse 14. And the wave breast and contribution thigh shall you eat in a clean place, you and your sons and your daughters with you. For they be your due and your sons' due, which are given out of the sacrifices of shalom offerings and of the children of Yah'sraelite. The heave shoulder and the wave breast shall they bring with the offerings made by fire of the fat, to wave it for a wave offering before Yahuwah. And it shall be your and your sons with you by a statute forever, as Yahuwah has commanded. And Moshe diligently sought the goat of the sin offering, and behold, it was burnt. And he was angry with Eleazar and Ithamar, the sons of Aharon, which were left alive, saying, Wherefore have ye not eaten the sin offering in the set-apart place, seeing it is most set apart? And power has given it you to bear the iniquity of the congregation, to make atonement for them before Yahuwah. Behold, the blood of it was not brought in within the set-apart place. You should indeed have eaten it in the set-apart place, as I command. And Aharon said unto Moshe, Behold, this day have they offered their sin offering and their burnt offering before Yahuwah, and such things have befallen. And if I had eaten the sin offering today, should it have been accepted in the sight of Yahuwah? When Moshe heard that, he was content. And it is so.
And it is so. Well, you talking about some major family situations going on. His nephews died. His brother is brokenhearted because of their disobedience. He's reduced down to his last two sons. And so you start thinking that's a lot of stuff to deal with. And then you still got the weight of the congregation on your shoulders.
Right.
You still have the weight. Now, once again, let me bring this out as well. Now, when he said, and thy sons and daughters. Now, the reference is that it's not due them, but they can still partake of it. Are you following me?
Yes.
They still have a part they can take. And thy daughters with thee, with sacrifices of a lesser degree of Kadesh, is what they said. Females may be given part of the breast and shoulder to eat. But they had no claim, that's past tense, to these portions. Past tense, once again, had is past tense. No claim to these portions. In other words, they couldn't go in claiming, I want this piece and I want that piece. But they were entitled to eat it. Or they were able to eat it, and it wouldn't be against instructions. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important. They could eat it. But in other words, you couldn't go in there saying, where's my portion? You know, if he could get it, where's mine? Could not do that. But we did. We were entitled, and we could eat it and partake of it. And it is so. Now, the breast of waving, the text uses heaving in connection with the thigh and waving of the breast, because the former was normally waved and burnt on the altar with the bread and fat, while the breast was waved by itself and became the priest's portion. On the day of consecration, the priest received both the thigh and the breast. Well, that was some big portions. Are you following me?
Yes.
Those some big portions. And so they would see that, because remember, this is the day of what? Consecration. Now, mind you, once again, as we continue to look at what took place in chapter 9, they died. Abinadab and Abinahu died before their consecration. They had got just that close to the door where things were about to change for them, and foolishly, being foolish, they ended up dying because they got ahead of Yahuwah, thinking that it was all right to put fire in their senses that they created and didn't allow him to do what he normally was doing. They got ahead of themselves and they died. So it was a celebration / people were mourning, but not in the usual way. Are you following? Because the process had to continue going forward. They couldn't stop. They continued to move forward. But you got to remember that. Now, mind you, and then their bodies were taken out, and they had to take them out in them clothes. So it wasn't that they were burnt to a crisp and wasn't nothing but ashes. They still were intact. Their bodies were still intact.
That's right.
And their garments just needed to be washed and put on their brothers that were coming and taking their own place. Yo, that's a lot of stuff to deal with.
Right.
You just saw your wearing this a day or two, maybe an hour ago. And now you about to put it on because of their foolishness. And still you have to walk in the office of this. Let me tell y'all something. When you truly are in leadership, you deal with a whole lot of stuff that people don't normally have to deal with. Really, that's the truth. Because you deal with issues, with family issues, you deal with your own issues, you deal with issues with your immediate family, you deal with them outside of that. Are you following me? You hear about death in your mishpachah, and you still have to continue to do what he's called you to do. Regardless if it's 1,000 people, 2 people, 1 person, you still have to do what you've been called to do and set aside to do.
That's right.
Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. And so when it's all said and done, you have to finish the task at hand. Even Yahusha had to continue to push on after he heard that Yehukanan was beheaded. But when he finished that portion of his assignment, he went then away to be ministered to by the Malach. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important that we understand that we have a time, but there are times that you can't stop. You have things going on in people's lives and they want you to be a part of it. And you say, I can't do it because this, that, and the other. Then they get mad at you and then they treat you like you the devil. Unfriend you. Talk about you. You know they talk about you. You just being legalistic. You just crazy. They're crazy. They all that time they walking in and what was right now they done got out there and they done got a bone in their throat. Now they are erroneously walking in error. And you got to deal with that. Plus, you got to deal with other people coming and accusing you of doing something that you know you're not doing. Are you following me?
Yes.
You doing what Yahuwah has called you to do. And especially us as women that's really walking the truth and you doing everything, folk ain't going to never be satisfied. They're not. But you have to maintain your integrity and you have to continue to move forward. You have people that will come and stick to it. You have people that will come and they'll vacillate. You have people that won't come back because they hear something they don't like. Then you have people that will come and sing your praises. And then once you say something or do something now, they don't want nothing to do with you. But yet you got to remain committed. Are you following me?
Yes.
So once again, it's very important that we understand what was going on at that time. Somebody said, well, that's not going on today. If you are in any type of position as a leader, there's stuff going on in your life that you can almost equate to that time. Are you following me?
Yes.
So once again, very important. Very important that we understand and that we maintain our walk in him. And Yahuwah said, no, we're in a time of consecration, a time of celebration. Are you following me?
Yes.
And people want to go, they want to go to other people's during the Sabbath. And if you notice, everybody want to do everything on the Sabbath. They want to have weddings on the Sabbath. They want to have funerals on the Sabbath. They want to do all these things. They want to have shows. They want to have programs. They want to do all these things on the Sabbath. And you start thinking, no, I can't do that. And then when you say the Sabbath is the 7th day, no, the Sabbath is Sunday. You're like, okay, nope, it is not that day. I'm not coming. So now you're clashing with that. And you got to deal with that because people get angry with you. But they always want to do it on this day. And then when you say, well, let me show you. I don't want you to show me nothing because I already know. Are you following me?
Yes.
And if you are human, those things at times do hurt. Especially when you're dealing with mishpachah. Because they know how to say stuff that make you want to punch them in the mouth. And you're at the back of them say, okay, that's great. Do what you do. And you continue to move forward. Are you following me?
Yes.
That's why we have to find that safe place, that security, that place of shalom in Yahuwah. And that's where I go. When stuff starts bothering me, I go right into that place. Are you following me?
Mm-hmm.
I stay in that place where I'm learning, but then there's that special place. You know, go to that happy place. Go to that happy place.
Yes.
And it ain't in a bottle. Are you following me?
Yes.
And it ain't in hitting the weed. It ain't in that. Are you following me?
Yes.
It ain't in none of that. It's in
That's right.
going in him, and I go in. Me and him talk. I talk to him, and he's a great listener. And sometimes he may not answer until about a month. Are you following me?
Yes.
Seriously. And one thing I've learned is that I'm a very private person. And anybody knows me, I'm very private. And if I open up to you, it's because I trust you.
That's right.
But still, I'm only going to trust you with so much. Are you following me?
Yes.
That's just the type of person I am. But when it's all said and done, you got to find that place in Yahuwah where you can get in. Because you got to remember, life does not stop.
Right.
Because we come and find ourselves in hardship. Are you understanding me? We are to endure hardship as what? A great soldier. A soldier gets wounded on the battlefield, and what does a soldier do? Keep pushing and keep fighting. Because you realize you're not just fighting for who? Yourself. But you're fighting for your what? Your regime. You're fighting for your platoon. You're fighting for your people. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
So it takes sacrifice. It does. It takes sacrifice. Because you got to be willing to take a wound to keep somebody else from getting wounded. Y'all hear me?
Yes.
And so, everybody don't want to do that, but sometimes you have to take a wound in order to keep them from dying. Because sometimes everybody's not able to handle those things. So you're ridiculed at times because of your position. You're ridiculed many times because you will take that stand and say, that's wrong. And that's not right at all. Are you following me?
Yes.
So it's important that we understand all of us have our responsibility. All of us have our part. Not so much to play, but to put our hands to and to walk in it. And it is so.
Yes.
And it is so. Very important that we understand that. Now, once again, with the offerings of the fat, which is, literally upon. Hence, we learn that the fat portions were beneath the others in the ceremonies of waving. Understand with as in addition to. In other words, it was with it. So when it said put it with it, it was put on it and it was burnt at that time as a complete offering. As a complete offering. Are you following?
Yes.
Very important as a complete offering. So when we give ourselves, once again, this is also showing us that we need to make sure that in our giving of ourselves, we give our complete and total selves. It's not just a part of us.
That's right.
And it is so.
Yes.
And it is so. All right. Now, diligently inquired. Inquiring, he inquired. Boshia made 2 investigations why the goat for the new moon sacrifice had been burnt and why the other two goats had been eaten. The goat of the sin offering on this day of the new moon, 3 goats were offered. The goat for the consecration rite, the free will offering of the Nashan, and you can find that in Numbers, or the Midbar 7 and verse 16. And the goat brought on the new moon, only the last of these had been burnt, and the rabbi suggested various reasons. That it had been in contact with something defiled, or because Haran was a mourner, and it was a usual sacrifice and not one special for the occasion. Once again, you got to understand, there's so many things that's taking place at this time, so he's got to maintain his emotional stamina while going through this. We have to remain emotionally stable and sound.
Right.
I've heard people say, never let them see you sweat. Never let the devil know you're sweating. I agree to disagree. And the reason I say that is because when we internalize things, that's what makes us sick.
That's right.
See, it's one thing when you're truly walking in shalom, and then it's another thing when you got a great front going on.
That's right.
And on the inside, you're toe up. But you know how to keep that persona. You know how to keep that face. You know how to keep yourself together. You know, I'm about to lose my stuff. We know how to keep our stuff in and keep from losing it. Are you following me?
Yes.
So we got that good game face going on, that great game face going on. And so we doing all this because we're looking at life and we're saying, can't nobody see me make these errors and these mistakes? Are you following me?
Yes.
But let me tell you something. One of the greatest releases is when you can cry out to Yahuwah and admit to him, Yahuwah, I'm broken, I'm hurt, and I'm hurting. And if I don't get some help, I don't know what's going to happen to me. Are you following me?
Yes.
If we don't be truthful to him, then who can we be truthful with? That's the truth. Because you walking around, anybody ever seen Despicable Me? The first one? Y'all know where I'm going. Y'all seen the first one? No? We are hard cartoons and those things. But if you hadn't, in Despicable Me, the first one, the little girl wants a unicorn because her sister accidentally tortures hers. So she goes in there and she holds her breath till she passes out. And she's walking around and she's getting dazed, and then she passes out because she wants a unicorn, because she says, I want to hold my breath. Well, even though that's funny, you have to understand that's what a lot of us do. We hold our breath because we're maintaining that composure, because we don't want people to know what's really going on the inside. We don't want people to know we're tore up about our situation. We don't want people to know that we're tore up about decisions and choices we made that brought us to the place that we're at. Are y'all following me? I'm being real. We don't want people to see that. So what do? We hold ourselves and we hide behind this persona and this face that says, don't nothing bother me. Don't nothing faze me. Because I'm immune to pain. That's a lie. Because if you cut me, I'm going to bleed. Are you following me? And then I'm going to cut you back.
That's right.
But the gist of this is understanding. He was in mourning for his sons.
That's right.
You have to understand, it's not like he was across town when they brought their bodies out. He was right there, and watch this. Now his other sons had to come in and take that place. So in his mind, I'm sure he's thinking, please don't let them make the same mistake. Don't let them make that same error, because then what am I going to have? I can't afford this. Are you following me?
Yes.
I can attest to that. I have not had any to physically leave this earth. Thank you, Yahuwah. But I've had them to leave certain principles, certain moral standards. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
That has made me say, please, Yahuwah, don't let the ones next in line take that same step. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. Why? Because you don't want that same situation to befall the next set. And they were working close with him. It's not like they had not been there. They were helping pass the blood. They were helping pass the pieces, the head, the body parts. So I'm sure he's looking at them. He's proud because they're right there beside him, doing the work that Yahuwah had not just commissioned, but had ordained them to do. And they messed it up. And then you have to take the clothes off of them and put it on your next set of sons, while those sons are being taken out because they're dead. Fully intact, but their ruach is destroyed. Are you following me?
Yes.
That's a memory that you do not soon forget. And watch this. They had to continue. They didn't stop. Once they took the clothes off of them, they immediately washed them and put them on the next set of sons. And what did they do? Get right into work. Because Yahuwah said, you cannot stop. You will not stop the service of this tabernacle. Keep it moving. In other words, keep it moving, soldier. Keep it moving.
That's right.
You can't stop it. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. And so now here is the situation where he's in a situation where they're offering, but he forgets to do one. And so they're trying to figure out why. Some say because he was in mourning. I believe so too. Realistically, because you have to understand, that's a lie. And so when he answered Moshe, it was acceptable. Because you have to understand, Moshe lost 2 nephews.
That's right.
And his brother, are you following me?
Yes.
Didn't fall into depression. So you talking about a family situation here. This is family. Every time you look in the writings, it's all about family. Family fighting, family feud. That's the true family feud. But these things were going on. So once again, understanding what had taken place. And it was well pleasing what he said to Moshe because of what was going on. Once again, we don't want to be in those situations because of foolishness. That's why we ought to keep our feet in the tabernacle. Keep your feet. Are you understanding? Yes. All right. Very important. Now, once again, they were talking about eating it and so forth. Moshe thought that they may have taken it outside the hangings of the court and then it would be disqualified, seeing it is most Kadesh. If it had been taken outside, they were right in burning it. When they told him that it had not been taken beyond the court, Moshe inquired why they had not eaten it. And he had given it to you. Though Yahuwah gave it to the priests, they were not allowed to burn it, because only by their eating it was atonement made for the community. The blood of it was not brought. Had it been so brought, your duty would have been to burn the animal. For all sin offerings brought within the court were burnt. This was a sin offering offered up outside the court. Now, he said ye should certainly have eaten it, although they were mourners. Once again, as he had commanded them to eat it in connection with the meal offering. They were going through emotional. This day have they offered. This refers to the burnt offering and sin offering of Haran and his sons. Haran is represented as protesting. Why hast thou been so angry with my sons? Were we not offering sacrifices today together that they be initiated into the priesthood? Yet this tragedy has occurred to disturb our joy. Once again, you have to understand they have to keep it moving. That's a lot. Are y'all following me? That is a lot. And Moshe was like, come on, you got to get this done. And I'm sure he probably looking at Moshe like, dude, you know, you may not have no sons, but I do. Or they may not be with you in the service. So come on now, let's be compassionate and be understanding with this situation. Have you noticed sometimes that people can be so incompassionate? Insensitive, thank you. Insensitive when it comes to your situations, but then they want you to be sensitive about everything that they go through. Oh man, I banged my toe. Oh man, let me see, did you bust it? Is it bleeding? When you say this is going on, that's going on, oh well, get over it. You man, get over it. Man up. You know, woman up. You straight. We could be so insensitive when it's somebody else's situation, but when it's ours, well, we want everybody around us patting us on the back, rubbing our shoulders. You know, in Christianity, they get around you, rub your shoulders, rub your head, they massage you, rub your back, hug you, kiss you on the forehead. Oh, it's going to be all right, baby. You're going to make it. You're going to make it. They didn't just gave you a full-fledged massage and then hugged you and embraced you. But then we feel like we're not supposed to be sensitive when it comes to somebody else's situation. A loss of a loved one, whether they are out of truth or in truth, is still a loss of a loved one. And sometimes that thing can hurt you to the core of your being. And when you're trying to tell people and you don't have anybody to really talk to, and they, you know, and they listening or they're not listening, you know, that's one of them things really making you want to kind of go off on people. When you lose somebody that's dear to you, are you following me?
Yes.
But until we've experienced that, then you really can't say, well, get up because you can keep it moving. That's not an easy thing to do. Are you following me?
Yes.
So once again, he is saying, look, you know, our joy has been taken from us. Now watch this. He's not blaming Yahuwah. Let's get that understood. But what he is saying, in other words, their folly caused them their death, their demise. Not Yahuwah, their folly. But does that mean that now we still can't feel sorrow because of their stupidity? Absolutely not. It makes you sorrowful and angry at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It does. So you have these mixed emotions, but you have to understand once again, they were serving and then they came along and served as well. And so once again, he said, Haran's sons remained silent out of respect for Moshe and Haran, and replied, did they offer the sacrifice? It was I who offered it, and being the high priest, I could do so even while I was a mourner. They have befallen me such things as these. the death of Haran's 2 sons, he added, for this reason I could not eat more than a small part of the sin offering, so grieved was I. Exactly. Because if he'd have been in that chowing down, you had the question, okay, something going on here, or something going on we didn't know anything about. So once again, we see the backside, or the backstory to why certain things were not presented to us. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Because if you don't understand why a person's being rebuked, that leaves you kind of questioning. Well, why would he just do that? Why would he just say that to them? Once again, you have to see why. Because Haran, he was supposed to, but he could not. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Realistically so. Does that mean, and then I'll make sure I clarify this, so people don't say, well, Mora, Prophet Brown said that, when you're mourning and it's really something that's overwhelming, then you can break instructions. I never said that. Now, did I? I never said that, and I will never say that. But what I am saying is that he was challenged to the point to where he could not eat it. It's better him not eat it than to eat it and then vomit it all over that place. Because he would have then desecrated that place. Are you following me?
Yes.
He would have then basically made it defiled. He would have contaminated it. So he could not. So it was better that he not partake of it. Like I said, he's given him the explanation. Even if those who died were not my sons, but other relatives of whom I had to mourn, I could not eat much of this sacrifice. Haran pleaded in defense. Would it have been well pleasing? Haran continued, you have no right to take a lenient view and permit this also in the case of sacrifices that are obligatory on all generations, such as the goat offered on the new moon. So it was well pleasing in the sight of Moshe. With the reason put forward by Haran, Moshe was not ashamed to admit his error. Are you following me?
Yes.
He had to talk to him. Ain't nothing wrong with admitting when you're wrong.
Right.
You're like, look, big brother. No, he's a little brother. Look now. I understand you got it under control, but you still have to understand these were my sons, also your nephews. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. And very important for us to be realistic. If you're wrong, just admit you're wrong.
Yes.
Are you following me?
Yes.
If we don't admit we're wrong, then what use are we if we are constantly, I ain't never wrong, I'm always right. We in trouble. Are we understanding?
Yes.
All right, let's look at chapter 11, verse 47. And we're going to look at verse 47. And it's like,
Chapter 11, verse 47. To make a difference between the unclean and the clean, between the beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be
and it is so. And it is so very important. To make a difference, one must not only learn these laws, but be expert in them to know what is forbidden and what is not. Very important for us because, once again, we have a lot of things going on. Now, let's turn our attention to our Haftorah portion in 2 Samuel, which is 2 Samuel chapter 6. And the reason it's important because we still have a lot of our people that consider meat as being unclean. Regardless of how many verses in the scriptures, the writings we share, is still, people want to say it's unclean. And it's not, because now we're profaning what Yahuwah has put in place for us to eat. We know we don't eat pork. That's a given. We do not eat pork, period. But the animals that he's given unto us are clean. And we should never, ever take the position of saying, well, it's unclean because they've proven. So we regard what they say over what Yahuwah has given us permission to do. Something is wrong with that picture, wouldn't you say? Because now we have given regard to man's word instead of Yahuwah's word. We're in 2 Samuel Bet, which is 2 Samuel. Chapter 6. I'm going to start at verse 1. We'll read 6 verses again. very important for us to understand that we're able to distinguish and know. Looking at the different fish, I didn't know there were so many varieties of fish. And a hogfish. I didn't know sway was catfish. I hadn't eaten any though. I don't, unless I knew when we did sway. And now you fit sway. Swai is catfish. It's another form of catfish. Huh? It's another form of catfish. We looked it up because I wanted to get some, and it's a part of the catfish family, so we don't fool with that. What else is it? I think we can trout. Because trout, it doesn't have scales, do it? It does. But we have to make sure it has scales. Because I'm a firm believer, if you can't if you can't scale it and you see the scales coming up and you gotta skin it, because see, you skin catfish, you skin sway, and it's some other ones. And if you can skin them and they have no scales that come off, we're not supposed to eat them. That's how you're able to distinguish what they are when they have scales. So, but there are so many breeds of fish. It's a street called, and so I'm very careful of the fish I eat, and all that great stuff because I don't want to be eating something that's not kosher. I haven't had any goat yet, so I would like to try goat. I hob lamb, especially when we put it on the grill, and Sean does it. But other stuff, I'm very careful of it because, like I say, I don't want to digress, and then I don't want to be having issues in my body because I'm eating something that I'm not supposed to ignorantly now, because I'm thinking it's okay and it's really not. So, important that we understand those things. All right, chapter 6, verse 1. We're going to read. Let's read 6 verses, please.
Should we go to that? Chapter 6, verse 1 to 6. Again, Dawood gathered together all the chosen men of Yah'srael, 30,000. And Dawood arose and went with all the people that were with him from Baal of Yehudah to bring up from there the ark of power, whose name is called by the name of Equal of hosts that dwells between the cherubims. And they set the ark of power upon a new cart, and brought it out of the house of Abinadab that was in Gibeah. And Uzziah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, drove the new cart. And they brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was at Gibeah, accompanying the ark of power. And Ahio went before the ark. And Dawood and all the house of Yah'srael played before Yahuwah in all manner of instruments made of fir wood, even on lyre harps, and on psalteries, and on tambourines, and on cornets, and on cymbals. And when they came to Nahum's threshing floor, Uzziah put forth his hand to the ark of power, and took hold of it, for the oxen shook.
And it is so. Once again, very important for us to understand order. Very important for us to understand structure. Very important for us to understand. Oh, it's about to die. Very, very important for us to understand. Now, once again, we're looking at this. Again, gathered. This is a second gathering. Is to be deduced here from the addition of again. They first gathered around him at his coronation in Hebron. Baal Yehudah, identical with Kirjat Jearim. And that's you can find that in Yahusha 15 and 9 and 1 Chronicles 8 and 6. A new cart, not yet used for any other purpose, but designed specifically for the transport of the ark. The sin consisted in the fact that the ark was not carried on the shoulders as was done by the Levites in the wilderness. After the death of Uzzah, it was so carried. Drove the new cart, that is, they guided the oxen which pulled it along. That was the wrong way. They were not supposed to do it in that manner. I don't understand why it does that. You gotta unplug it from that and plug it into something else. All right. Now, once again, sorry, y'all. They were not supposed to do that. It said new. So anytime it said new cart, you knew there was going to be some problems because it was carried on the shoulders of the who? The Lewites. It was carried on their shoulders. Intimate, personal. Are you following me? And I believe that was symbolic of eventually being written on our hearts. Are you following me?
Yes.
On our shoulders, then in our hearts. All right. With the ark, the phrase they came has been supplied. The words are governed by they brought it. Some explain that phrase to Uzzah, who walked by the side of the ark while Ahio went in front of it. In other words, they had it on the cart with the oxen. He was behind it, and Ahio was in front of it, basically guiding it, which was wrong because they were never to use animals to transport it. It was always supposed to be on the shoulders. And once again, I believe this was very significant of understanding the burden, and not so much a negative burden or a negative or a overwhelming burden, but understanding the burden that it brings in our life, not a bad one. Are you understanding?
Yes.
He said in Matik Yahu, he said, take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for my burdens are what? Light. They're light. They're not heavy. So once again, what is the burden or what is the yoke? The yoke is the Torah. So when we take that upon our lives, we're supposed to put it in our lives. You have to understand, what does a yoke do? Yokes you. It goes around. It went around the oxen or cows, however, and that's what would guide them, that yoke. My yoke is easy and my burdens are light. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
So when he says my burden, he's talking about his instructions for our lives. It's not heavy. Very important for us to understand. And so when we take it off of our shoulders and out of our lives and try to put it on or in a position or on something else that is not qualified to carry it, this is where problems come about. Are you understanding me? He said, take unto you my yoke and learn of me. He said, for my burden is easy and for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Are you following me?
Yes.
It's very important that we understand that. Because when we don't understand that, this is what happens. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. So, once again, this was being shown us through their actions. So someone will ask, well, what is it that we were, or how is it that we could take the Torah and put it in something else and not put it in our lives? When we push it off on something or somebody else, that's where problems come about. It is for us to carry, not anybody else. He told me that we were the Torah's natural habitation. It was naturally for the Lewites to carry it on their shoulders, just like it is a natural thing for us when we come and walk in truth for it to be in here. That means we got to open up and allow it to be in here.
That's right, Lord.
Are you understanding me? Because it's easy and it's light. The reason it becomes heavy is when we try to go against it and not go with it. That's what makes it heavy. Cypress wood, from which musical instruments were made. After stating generally that the instruments were made from this wood, some of them are specified. Now, the threshing floor of Nakan. In 1 Chronicles 8 and 9, it is called the threshing floor of Kedon or Shadon. Perhaps it had two names, being called Shadon or a spear, because Uzzah died there, and then Nakan established after Dawood had successfully removed the ark. Once again, it's important that we understand you cannot change the order and the way Yahuwah has prescribed and put this out for us as his people to follow. When we do that, we get into danger and grave trouble. We get in trouble.
That's right.
Don't push it off on anybody else. Accept it and carry it. Because it's ours. Nobody else's. That's when we get into trouble. Are you following me?
It is.
Once again, And they did this, and I'm just going to put my theory out there because they thought that this would be a better way. You can't be, in other words, we cannot suggest something for Yahuwah to do. His way is perfect. Now you have to understand, Uzziah died just like Abinadab and Abinahu because they came up with what? Their own way. He died because he did what? He reached out and he touched it. And we're going to see that. That was not for him to do. Are you following me?
Yes.
Never, ever, ever. That's just like strange fire. You're not supposed to create something and try to present it when it's not yours to do so. Are you following me?
Yes.
All right, let's read. Verse 7. You read to 6, right? All right, verse 7. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 for me.
And the anger of Yahuwah was kindled against Uzziah, and power smote him there for his error, and there he died by the ark of power. And Dawood was displeased because Yahuwah had made a breach upon Uzziah, and he called the name of the place Perez Uzziah to this day. And Dawood was afraid of Yahuwah that day, and said, How shall the ark of Yahuwah come to me? So Dawood would not remove the ark of Yahuwah to him into the city of Dawood. But Dawood carried it aside into the house of Obed-Edom, the Gittite. And the ark of Yahuwah continued in the house of Obed-Edom, the Gittite, 3 months. And Yahuwah baruched Obed-Edom and all his household. And it is so.
And it is so. Once again, very important that we understand. Why did he reach out? Because the oxen stumbled. But anyway, because the ark should have been carried on the shoulders of Levites. Because they're just animals. They just do what they do. They just walk and blink. You know, don't nobody know what's on an animal's mind. I don't care how many people try to whisper animals. They realize all of them ain't gonna be whispered. When did the dog whisperer got bit or got tore up by a dog? Now he ain't whispering no more. Are you following me? I knew that was gonna happen bad. I'm not laughing at the man's tragedy, but you start thinking, you know, Once again, animals are just animals. And no matter how much we try to domesticate them, they are still animals.
That's right.
You know, and they will turn on you because they are what? Animals. So once again, he ended up getting hurt behind it. Then you had the horse whisperer. You don't have no more people coming on there talking about whispering to no animals, do you? I think that job kind of fizzled out after they realized everybody don't want to be whispered to. So they kind of, you know, that job is one I don't think anybody wants. Follow me. See, you have to understand, their mentality is we're going to take dominion. You can't take what was never given to you.
Right.
You can't take what was never given to you. You know, we know how to take dominion. Pow! I'll show you growling and biting at me. I'll put you down. Are you following me?
Yes.
That's how you take dominion. You going to sit up there and whisper? Oh, no. I feed you. I give you a roof, and you're going to bite at me? Because if they do it one time, they'll do it again.
That's right.
They will. So you have to kind of get rid of them. No, I don't believe in killing animals, but I will take you out if you try to bite me. Ain't gonna be no stop it, quit it. You know why? Because you already Pharaoh. Anytime an animal tries to bite its owner, you already done lost your sense of understanding and loyalty. So it's time for you to go. So once again, it's time for you to go bye-bye. No. All right. Now, very important for us to understand what took place. Now, for his era, Uzziah should have understood that if the ark in the rabbinic phrase carried its carriers, it did not need his support. His error consisted in his touching the ark, although he was not a Levite. He should have known better. Are you following me? He should have known better. But once again, when people take it unto themselves to do whatever they want, they don't consider instructions and space. Are you following me? Instructions and space. That should have been given space, and then instructions should have been given according to how they were supposed to carry the ark. Are you following me?
Yes.
Obed-Edom and First Chronicles 15 and 18, he is mentioned as being a Levite and one of the doorkeepers. So Dawood got into his house because he was scared. He was scared. Sometimes when tragedy hits, we don't get scared. We just keep it going because we think it's just a normal thing. But when Yahuwah did things, they got scared. It caused them to shut down for days. And that's the way we're supposed to be. We're supposed to fall at his presence and realize, you know what? No. Because once he starts moving and doing things, y'all, no. There's nothing we can do until we have the unction. In other words, the release to move and go forward. Until that time, you better be still. But that's one thing a lot of us don't do. We don't fear it. And we see people die and we go on. Now, I want to say this, and I don't say this in any way to be insensitive. But when the general in North Carolina was murdered, y'all hear me?
Yes.
He was shot in the face. People talked about it. They said whatever. And then when it was all said and done, it was over. But they had his funeral. We couldn't make it. I didn't know him personally, but that's what I knew of him. I respected him. I can say I respected him. We never got a chance to really formally meet. But when it happened, I cried. My heart was grieved because that scared me. Here this man is, a general, teaching and preaching and reaching, and then he's murdered, shot in the face. So I'm saying to myself, Yahuwah, something is going on. Because this doesn't happen haphazardly. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
But people talked about it. Everybody wanted to put their little 2 bits in. Everybody wanted to say why, what happened. I talked to the family. And I'm like, what about us going into prayer asking what's going on?
Yeah.
What about us coming together and saying, wait a minute, we got to stop, y'all. No, we stopped and we prayed. We prayed. Because you have to understand something. When leadership starts dying like that, that means there's something, a breach. Because that's what you look at as being a breach. Like say that was a breach. When Uzziah died, that's a breach when he died. And you have people in Kemet talking about, you have people all over talking and putting their 2 bits in. It was something. And I was grieved. My heart was grieved for a couple of days about that. Maybe three to 4 days because I was trying to get an understanding of that. You know, because in my mind, I'm thinking, what happened? Not because I'm trying to find, okay, is it something negative? What's going on? What happened? You have to understand, things don't happen to us just because.
That's right.
There is something behind it. Once again, where is the fear? Where is the fear? We've lost our fear for Yehuda. That's why people say and do whatever they want. Are you following me? Whatever they want. That's not what we're supposed to do. I see a lot of things that really disturb me. I'm like, all this crazy mayhem and stuff people doing, and you know, you want people to praise you. You getting your reward now. When men praise you, you're getting your reward now. No, we are never to be praised by people. That is always to be to Yahuwah, never unto us. But you see these folk letting people kiss their feet and bowing before them. All right? Yeah. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right, King Nebuchadnezzar didn't give a sting to Yahuwah, and he struck him. And he was out in the grass, butt naked, eating, clawing like an animal for 7 years. That's a long time to be out there like an animal, eating grass and running around like a beast. Y'all following me?
Yes.
That's a long time, 7 years. Your family looking out there. Well, where is he? Did he get out the gate? No, he back in there. Just let him alone because ain't nothing we can do. And then you're scared. I'm not touching him because what happened to him might jump on me. I'm not touching the bro. Because he refused to give Yahuwah the praise. You have to understand, he was able to do what he did because Yahuwah is the one who raised him up to do it.
That's right.
And he didn't do it. Clawing, long claws, eating at the, barking at the moon, and eating grass, because he had become a beast. He had become his true nature, a beast, because he didn't give praise to Yahuwah. Like I say, we better learn to give praise to Yahuwah. Don't let people praise you.
Right.
No. Mm-mm. He gets it all.
Right.
I'm just a servant. He gets it all. Because then you get the big head, and now they coming and they bowing before you. Mm-mm. Until Yahuwah does it, and he establishes it, you establish it out of your own heart. No. You're getting your praise. You're getting what you want. Are you following me?
Yes.
We cannot do that. Very important that we maintain our consistency. Now, Yahuwah Baruch Obed Edom. He was Baruch with a very large family, as enumerated in 1 Chronicles 26:4. They that bore the ark, the subject of the verb is the Lewites. Are you understanding me? Lewites are the ones to carry it. Nobody else. Nobody else. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right, let's read.
Verse
12. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
And it was told King David, saying, Yahuwah has proved the house of Obed-Edom, and all that pertains to him, because of the ark of Yahuwah. So David went and brought up the ark of Yahuwah from the house of Obed-Edom into the house of David with gladness. And it was so that when they that bear the ark of Yahuwah had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed oxen and fatlings. And Dawood danced before Yahuwah with all his strength. And Dawood was girded with the linen ephod. So Dawood and all of the house of Yah'sraelite brought up the ark of Yahuwah with shouting, and with the sound of the shofar. And as the ark of Yahuwah came into the city of Dawood, Michal, Shaul's daughter, looked through the window and saw King Dawood leaping and dancing before Yahuwah. And she despised him in her heart.
And it is so. My. Now, once again, he said, let me go get this, because this rightfully belongs to us. And he go gets it because he understands without the Torah we can't make it. Now, once again, I've made reference to this before. When you look at those people that are outside of our truth and that not living, that are not us, but yet they're being baruched, these people have what belongs to us, and that's the Torah. That's why we need to recapture it and place it in our hearts and live by it.
That's right.
Swear by it, by Yahuwah's name, as we live by it. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
By his name and live by Torah. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important. Now look what happens. Who bore the ark? The Lewites. That meant Dawood had to go back and do what? Some research. That meant he had to go and pray. And in his time of prayer and research, I'm sure he came across the Lewites were supposed to carry it. And this time, when he went to get it, he said, I'm going to do this right. And then I'm going to add some grain offering to it. Grain offering, the praise and the worship. Are you following me?
Yes.
Now you have to understand, they are moving, and they move 6 paces. Now, Uzziah had only walked 6 steps when Yahuwah smote him. Now that they had gone 6 steps with no untoward event happening, they rejoiced. Their burden seemed light now that Yahuwah was helping them to shoulder it. Some contended that a sacrifice was offered at every 6 steps. That means every time they was doing something. Are you following me?
Yes.
But what we really need to understand, the basis and the foundation of it being approved was because it was being brought back to Jerusalem in the right manner. Everything else is just an added bonus. Because no matter how much dancing he did and how much offering he did, if that ark had not been on the shoulders of the Levite, they were going to die again.
That's right.
So that meant he had to do it first in the right manner. Then it was approved. Other than that, that's why they was praising nobody else. He ain't reached us, so that means we straight. They were straight because they were doing it right. And it is so.
It is so.
A linen ephod. This was a garment of esteem and not the same as the ephod of the priesthood. So he was doing what he needed to do, basically putting himself in that position as a leader, I believe. Because you have to understand, when stuff goes tragic, when tragedy happens, the leader is always going to be looked upon as finding a remedy and correcting it.
That's right.
Are you following? Because you have to understand, he was under the leadership of Dawood when he died. And this is why Yahuwah was mad. Why Dawood was mad at Yahuwah and also scared of him, because he was like, "Whoa, wait a minute!" But then he had to go back and check. Same thing as Yahusha, the son of Nun, when they died in the battle of, was it Ai? Yeah. When they died, and he had to go back, and he was crying and weeping before Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said, "Get up from there, boy, and talk to me." He said, "What did I tell you?" He said, "Sin in the camp." In other words, don't come telling me that I basically messed up. Go look at what's going on. He said, "Sin is found in your camp, and go find it." And sure enough, he found it. There were garments. There was gold in the tent. I can't think of his name. What was his name? What's his name? Help me do it. Achan, Todai. And his family and his tents. All of them had partaken of it. And Yahuwah said, "Leave that there and don't bother." He said, "If you do well and follow all my instructions," he said, "you will win every battle." When they lost, he had to go and find out what had happened. We can't blame Yahuwah when things go wrong, and we're at the helm of doing things. That's why you got to check everything.
That's right.
Sometimes, like I say, in this walk, you have people that will help you, and you have people that will hate you and dislike you. Because when you start telling them, "No, you can't do that. We have to do it like this," they don't want that. But you have to understand, as a leader, I got to make sure that that everything about you is straight. Are you following me? You know, you're talking about if a certain time they would say, and I've heard this saying, that if certain prophets told you that a chicken dips snuff, then you better check on this wing to see where its can is. That means as a teacher, as a leader, as a prophet, I got to check under your wing, make sure you ain't got nothing under your wing. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
I got to make sure your life is lining up so that things will continue to flow. Because watch this. All it takes is for one person to mess up and everybody suffers.
That's right.
Are y'all following me? Everybody suffers. So it's very important that we understand, as a leader, when you are put in that position, you have to do things that other people may not be willing to do. And so once again, we see that an overlook or an underlook of things, not looking at things, caused a major demise. And lives were taken. And so once again, now he rectified and corrected, and he wanted the people to see that he was doing what he needed to do. Leaping and dancing, the verbs either denote two forms of dancing or just emphasizing that he danced with great vigor. This boy was getting me in, and people want to say we ain't supposed to dance. I don't know about you, but I want to dance. Especially when you know something happened and then he comes back and gives you the remedy and the restoration from that thing. Yes, you want to give him praise. That's why he was a man after Yahuwah's own heart. She despised him. She considered it below her husband's dignity as a king to dance like a commoner, even in front of the ark. Boy, boy, boy. I tell you what, when you have people that dog you out because you praise Yahuwah, it becomes a major issue. And a lot of relationships have been destroyed behind that very thing, because either the ark esteems and ahabs Yahuwah so much that he's willing to cry and do things, and you have a lot of issues that will despise them because of that. That don't make sense. That's so stupid. You ain't even got to do that. That ain't being manly. And then vice versa. You have men that will get angry with their issues because of their ahab and because of their dedication to what they believe. And they will despise them, and they will say all manner of nasty things towards them. You know, you got to understand, you want them to celebrate with you, not fight you in it. You celebrating, and then they right there, you know, being a dummy. But what's all that for? What you doing that for? That's all unnecessary. So you can imagine he probably looked at her like, oh, That's what it is. You know, he got one of the quickness. Remember we was in Remember when we was in church, you say, boy, I was quickened by that. And he got quickened when she said what she said to him, like, oh, so that's your view of me. Okay. All right. But she had major issues because she was not in it. Because remember, she was the daughter of who? Saul. So once again, she wasn't in this. She wasn't in the walk. She just was with him because she was promised to him. She wasn't in it. That wasn't her. That wasn't where her heart was. Because if her heart was in it, she may not have ran up there by him, but she'd have been in the doorway somewhere dancing with him. Are you following me? I'd have been out there getting it in. Go, baby, go get. We didn't brought it back. We about to see some changes. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
We about to see the Baruch upon our lives that Obed-Edom saw. He had a large family. Yehuah and Baruch in him. Are you following me?
Yes.
Torah brings increase. Never lack. Are you following me?
Yes.
It always brings us increase. Never lack. If we lack it, we need to find out what's going on. We always need to find out what's going on. And it is so. All right. Let's read, please.
The ark of people and set it in the place, in the midst of the tabernacle, that the wood had pitched, and the wood offered burnt offering, and chill offering before you do. And the son of Dawood had made the hand of offering, burnt offerings, and chill offerings. He grouped the people and named the wood of both. He dealt among all the people, even among the whole multitude of the Yah'sraelite, as well as the women and as men. So everyone I love the living dedicated. So all the people divided. Baruch his house.
Michael.
Michael, the daughter of Yah'sraelite, came out to meet David and said, although it's dead, the eyes of the handmaids of the servant fell shamelessly on himself. Now we will say to my God, it was before house to appoint me ruler of the people of Yah'sraelite. Therefore will I be before them.
Mm-hmm.
Now Lilith humiliated herself more than this, and of the maidservants we should have spoken. Of them shall it be had honor. Therefore, my daughter, the daughter of Shaul, no child to the day of the
And it is so. Let me tell y'all something. I got the revelation of that even before I came in the truth. Very important for us to understand. Give me chills. To celebrate the things of Yahuwah and have someone there that fights you. That's just something that just, whew, you just don't want that. Are you following me? You want somebody right there that's going to celebrate with you, especially when they know everything that's going on. Are you following me? It's not like she was oblivious and ignorant to what was taking place. She was right there too. So she knew what was going on. But once again, when it's not in a person's heart, you can't make it be. But that still does not change us. Now, had pitched for it. Since the exact site of the temple was yet unknown, Dawood deposited the ark in a tent. It was traditionally known, however, that Jerusalem would be the Kadesh city. A cake made in a pan takes ashpar to be an abbreviation of two Hebrew words meaning a sixth of a bull. A sweet cake. The word signifies a measure of wine. Adding the comment that Dawood gave to each a portion of wine and meat. Dawood was splurging. And y'all, he was in the midst of everybody. Now let me show y'all how confident he was of Yahuwah. It's always people trying to take the throne. He could have been assassinated, which we know he couldn't. I'm just using this as a scenario of his confidence in Yahuwah. He could have had somebody try to hold him hostage. But you have to understand, when a king is esteemed by Yahuwah, he will be esteemed by his people.
That's right.
He was esteemed because when he first went to go get the Torah, he erred gravely. And everybody saw that, and he had to bear that shame. Second time, everybody's rejoicing because they're seeing what? Their king come rejoicing and making it back to Jerusalem with the Ark of the Covenant.
That's right.
So everybody's dancing with him. Everybody's getting involved. Everybody's being a participant. And he's giving. And he says, now, because y'all were here with me, this is going to be my offering to you. See, that takes a genuine king that says, just let you praise with me and not celebrate with me and not me share with you. That is to be passed out. That's a lot. But he wasn't lacking. He wasn't hurting for nothing. He was not hurting for anything. Are you understanding me? That's just like a person built a billionaire pulling out $1 million. That's like to him $100. That ain't no money. Are you following me?
Yes.
No, it does not matter. So he gives this to the people. They go back home. And all the while, she's nasty, just like her papa. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
To rebuke his household, to greet them return from his journey. You go home, you ready to celebrate, or you go home to relax. And you're there, and it's foolishness waiting for you at the door. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Not because you did something wrong. Not because you've been out there whoring around, or out there running after women, or doing anything, wasting money, wasting time. You just did something that was phenomenal and proved by bringing the ark back home and then rebuking the people. And you got somebody standing at the door looking at you sideways in other ways. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Whether male or female. And they are criticizing you because of your heart for your good. And listen what she says. How did the king get him esteem? She spoke ironically. The handmaidens of his servants, not even the wives of his servants, but their handmaids. Once again, everything was to belittle him and to make him feel like what he had done was insignificant. Are you following me?
Yeah.
And Dawood said Yahuwah had esteemed him by choosing him to be king. So it was proper that he should abase himself before him. Because when we humble ourselves before him, he will do what? Exalt us in due season.
That's right.
See, you don't go up and then think you're going to continue to go up. You first abase yourself. In other words, make yourself low. And then he will take us up. Because he's the one that does it. We never ought to blow our horn or toot our horn. Never. Never, ever.
That's right.
And it is so.
And it is so.
He said, I will yet be more vile than thus. For such action on my part is not shameful, but esteemed. With them will I get me esteemed. They will think the more highly of me for what I did. In other words, she was supposed to be the one that was out there celebrating him. If you don't celebrate what is yours, somebody else will. Are you following me?
Yes.
Celebrate what's yours. I tell, especially when you're dealing in relationships, you may not, sometimes, but if you're with that person and they're with you, and you can celebrate. Because if you say your relationship is perfect, that means there's no room for improvement. We've been married 32 years, right? 32 years, we'll be together 33 years this year. Our relationship is not perfect, but it is solid.
That's right. That's right.
It's solid as a rock. Are you following me? Very important for us to understand that, because we don't always see eye to eye. Because he's thinking he always right. That's fine. He can say he's always right, always winning. I don't ever lose. So once again, it's important, but we ought to celebrate in our relationships. Celebrate one another. And especially when you are walking in truth. Now, once again, your mate may not be in truth, but you still are supposed to celebrate as your mate. Still celebrate them as your mate. You still celebrate yourself because you know you're walking in his truth. Once again, this is so why? Let me show you something. She had no children. And the reason she had no children, it said Dawood no longer ahaved her as he had done previously in this incident. Now, even before I came into truth, the reason why she didn't have any children is because he didn't touch her no more from that day forward. He became celibate. Are y'all following me? Your words can drive a person out of your life or pull them in. He did not have her to touch her anymore. And she didn't have any more children from that day forward, or had any children. Are you following me?
Yes.
That's how children are brought forward. Intimacy. And she no longer, or he was no longer intimate with her. Because those words, you have to understand, cut. They cut to the point that his desire for her was no longer there. This is why we have to be careful with our words. You do. You have to be careful with your words, especially when you have a mate. You have to. And from that day forward, he touched her no more. That's why she had no more children. And before I even came into truth, that revelation was given to me. A breadcrumb. That was a breadcrumb for me to continue to seek and find out why. You know, what could be that damaging, or what can anybody say? But you have to understand, the Torah was restored after being away for 3 months out of its original place and rightful place. So you know things were not right. I'm sure he had sleepless nights and restless mornings to where it's like, I got to find a way to get this back. Come on, y'all, we got to pray. Nathan, tell me what's going on. How we do this? Let's go back and read. Let's pray. Oh, got it. Get me the Levites. And let's put it on their shoulders and let's bring it back home. Once again, it's important that we understand that. And so after that, you celebrating everybody else around you and they celebrating them and going on, and she's sitting over there looking like a sourpuss. Because she's thinking, well, you too good for that. You better than that. You ain't gonna be dancing around them commoners. Commoners, these are my people. They are what make up this kingdom. Without them, where's the kingdom?
Right.
So once again, very important for us to understand. From that day forward, he touched her no longer. And she had no more children. Or she had. So it's easy for you to push a man out of your arms and into another. Are we understanding?
Yes.
And push him into somebody else's arms. Excuse me. And that is what happened. That is the end of that story. And there were no children in the following because of that. Very good. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes. And it is so.
And it is.
And it is so. All right, let us turn our attention to chapter 7, verse 17. All right, let's read that, please. Read, come on.
Verse 17 reads, according to all these words, and according to all this vision, so did Nathan speak to them.
And it is so. And he spoke to Dawood, very important. Once again, Nathan was the prophet that stood beside Dawood during his time of being the king. And it is so. And it is so. All right, now let us turn our attention to our Hadassah, which is in Ibram chapter 8, verses 1 through 6. We only have 6 verses. And it is chapter 8, verses 1 through 6.
Now the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such a Kohen Confidant, who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty, and the Shemayim, a servant of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle, which Yahuwah pitched, and not man. For every Kohen hung is ordained to all offices. Therefore, it is a necessity that this man have somewhat also to offer. For if he were on earth, he should not be a Kohen, seeing that there are Kohanim that offer gifts according to the Torah, who serve to the example and shadow of heavenly things, as Moshe admonished, by Yahuwah when he was about to make the tabernacle. For see, said he, that he make all things according to the pattern showed to you in the mountain. Verse 6. But now has he obtained a more excellent service, by how much also he is the mediator of a more advantageous covenant, which was established upon more advantageous promises.
And it is so. Once again, this does not annul the Torah. It helps us to understand that it is upon greater promises or more advantageous promises. Once again, very important for us to understand that word in the Strong's 2909 is Cretan, means a more advantageous covenant. The covenant was not bad and had no faults with it. Things just improved even more with Yahusha. But what needs to be remembered that this was all mentioned in Torah for the Torah followers. This is why you cannot really fully appreciate Hebrews or Ibram without understanding the Torah from its beginning or from when we were introduced to it. Are you following me? Our ancestors and forefathers. You cannot appreciate this without understanding that, because this is why this was written. Without it, it's almost like a key code. Without the key code, you cannot have answers. And so people try to understand it and erroneously interpret it because they don't have the source and the key code. Once again, it's not that the first covenant was bad. It's just that now it's through Yahusha with improvements. Are you following me? With improvements, long-lasting improvements. We have a high priest that's before Yahuwah on his right side daily. Are you following me? Yes. We don't have to worry about going and offering animals because he was the perfect sacrifice. And his sacrifice was sufficient for all of us that are of the 12 tribes. And even for those that desire to come and be a part, are you understanding me?
Yes.
Knowing and wanting to walk in truth. So it's important that we understand this so that we can have a greater fellowship with Yahuwah through Yahusha, our Mashiach, in the Ruach Kodesh. Very important for us to understand that. And that way we won't go in misinterpreting it or trying to interpret it by way of the church's methodology and interpretation. Are you following me?
Yes.
Because he's still talking about covenant. He never annulled covenant. He never dismantled or disabled covenant and its precepts. He never did that with Torah or the covenant. Once again, very important for us to understand. And understand that in order to understand this, we have to have Yahushua our Mashiach, because he is the key and the door to our salvation. And it is so. And it is so. Come on, put your hands together and esteem him on this day. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. As we do appreciate him yet once again for our instructions and for a time of rest, I pray Abba Yahuwah continues to give you sweet rest on today, and that he continues to move you forward and give you the momentum to continually leap over mountains and give you the strength to go through mountains that are not to be over, and continue to give us everything we need to maintain a healthy and wholesome relationship with him and through Yahushua Mashiach in the Torah, in the Ruach Kodesh. So I pray today that he continues to enlighten us and continues to move us forward. Once again, I am Prophetess Sabrina Brown, also Moral 777, and I am the leader of Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Great Belief Ministries, located in South Carolina. I want you to remember, here at Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Great Belief Ministries, this is the place where The Torah does the body excellent. Until next time, may Abba Yahuwah Baruch Atah and keep you in his shalom until we meet again. Also, I want you to remember that you've been touched by Champion TV, a place where the champions reside. And it is so. And it is so.
This is Champion TV. This is Champion TV.
Okay. Okay, great. That's fine. Don't we still have the information on that about the church? Yeah. Yeah.